Hey Eagle fans, it's EaglefanKarl. This is going to be my quick check-in after the Eagles-Falcons game this past Sunday. Huge win, obviously, for the team, and just a couple things I wanted to point out in terms of how I looked at the game and the end result. First of all was the rushing yards in terms of the difference between the two teams. The Eagles completely outgained the Falcons by over 150 yards on the ground. And then that is reflected in the second stat I want to talk about. And regardless of what Chip Kelly thinks, time of possession does matter. And we saw that as the Eagles had the ball for over 38 minutes and the Falcons had it for under 22. And that obviously affected the outcome of this game. I don't want to take credit and say, hey, maybe they were listening to my video. But one of the things I said in the video that I did in my preview for the game was the fact that we needed to run the ball to be able to control the clock to keep their offense off the field. And that's exactly what we did. The fact that this was the only game all year that the Falcons have been held under 20 points, I think says a lot for the way we approach this game. And if you look at the way we did approach this game, it really was sort of with a vanilla offense, nothing real fancy. The idea was ball control, keep the ball for as long as possible, try to get points at the end of drives, and ultimately keep their offense off the field. Mike Missanelli, I was listening to him yesterday. I think he said it perfectly when he said the game plan was brilliantly boring. And that's really what the case was. There was no real big plays that you can sit there and remember that sort of stand out. But really what the game plan was just sort of methodically move the ball, keep the ball on the ground, and continue to feed the running backs, especially Ryan Matthews, who had obviously his best game of the season this year. And clearly the whole goal of the game and our game plan was to continue to keep the ball out of the offense of the Falcons. Another interesting decision that Doug Peterson made was to use Isaac Seumalo quite a bit in this game. I looked it up. He played 13 snaps in this game, which is a lot considering he's a sixth offensive lineman. And really what he was doing was playing the place of another tight end and being used for run blocking, which ultimately I think was really helpful for us. And what it ended up doing was recognizing that, hey, the Eagles don't have that many weapons, so let's take one of our mediocre weapons off the field and replace him with a guy who can really do a lot of run blocking. And if we're going to run the ball as much as we did in this game, I think that made a lot of sense. Ultimately, I'd like to see them do a little bit more of that down the road because I think that the way we won this game is the way we're going to have to win games down the road. Carson Wentz just does not have the weapons to be able to throw to like other teams do. That much is evident once again in this game. Even Jordan Matthews, who's one of our best receivers, dropped a critical pass at the end of the first half. And it's those kind of plays that really end up hurting a team over the course of a season. And if we're not going to be able to make those plays with our wide receivers, then why don't you take one of them out, replace them with an offensive lineman, and run the ball more? And I think that's what Doug Peterson decided to do in this game. As good as the offense played, though, I think we really have to take our hats off to the defense. The defense really is what ended up winning this game for us. I said it before, I'll say it again. This is the first time the Falcons have been held under 20 points this season. And I think that says a lot as for how our defense really played. There was really one stretch in the game that I think was especially critical. After the Falcons took the lead and went up for 15-13 in the fourth quarter, we had the ball, drove, and ended up stalling, and Sturgis tried the long field goal and missed. That was a real critical possession then that the Falcons came out with because that was the chance that I think they had to finally sort of take control of that game. And you saw the Eagles defense clamp down and didn't give them anything. It was 3 incomplete passes and they punted. So I think that was really sort of the point of the game where I started feeling like, hey, this team could actually win this game in the fourth quarter. There had been a lot of discussion in the weeks leading up to this game that the Eagles were unable to close out close games. But when I saw that possession, that gave me a lot of hope because at that point I realized that the defense, even when playing from behind, was able to stop that offense, which I think was real critical. Now, on the Falcons side of things, I think they made a little bit of a mistake in the sense that they tried to throw the ball in 3 straight downs and didn't try and run it even once. and you had a lead in the fourth quarter, I would think you'd at least try and run the ball once in that situation, but they didn't. And on first and third down, Jim Schwartz brought blitzes that I think really ended up sort of changing the way the dynamic of that whole possession played out. And Matt Ryan, although we only got 2 sacks on him, Matt Ryan was never really comfortable. He, obviously, without having the ball very much, never really got into a groove. And I think that really ended up showing in that possession because the Falcons offense clearly was not in a rhythm, and the Eagles defense was able to take advantage of that, shut them down, get the ball right back for our offense, and that's when our offense went down the field and scored the go-ahead touchdown. So this was a real big win for us, especially when you consider that all the other 3 teams in the division all won as well. So the Eagles are still at the bottom of a division that has everybody above 500. So it's going to continue to remain a challenge for us to sort of claw back into this thing. But we are playing all 3 of those teams again at home, so I think that the season still has a long ways to go, that we can claw ourselves back into a playoff position. But I think that really it now becomes a week-to-week thing. And the next team up is the Seattle Seahawks, so it's not going to get any easier as we head forward. But I'll get into them in my preview prediction video this weekend. Go ahead, leave me your comment below. Let me know what you thought was the big turning point in this game and allowing us to finally pull out a fourth quarter win against a team that is right now in a playoff position. Leave your comment below. Let me know what you think. And I'll check in again this weekend for the Eagles-Seahawks game. Until then, fly Eagles fly.